I get a lot of questions about fasting. I get a lot of misconceptions and a lot of comments in the comment section of my fasting videos from people that don't quite understand and or don't take the time to try to understand. So you get a lot of ignorance, you get a lot of bias, you get a lot of dogma. Now that's obviously par for the course for all YouTube videos, but when it comes to fasting, since it's so near and dear to my heart, since I also believe that every human for the most part should be fasting, I'm gonna address that in today's video. So here are some of the most common misconceptions of intermittent fasting. The most important thing to understand about intermittent fasting is the first word, intermittent. That means on a frequency, in between. Intermittent fasting is about timing. Some people call it time-restricted feeding or time-restricted fasting, and that is actually more accurate because I think the intermittent fasting people don't really understand the word, and so they don't take the time to understand what that actually means when it's put with the word fasting. If you do a prolonged fast, obviously you won't eat as many calories as you did on a day where you ate food, because if you're prolonged fasting, let's say you're fasting 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever, you're obviously not eating calories, and that would be calorie restriction. But most people confuse fasting with long-term fasting. And so they think that fasting is all about eating less calories. But that's not the case at all when it comes to intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is about when you eat your calories. It doesn't make any assertions or claims about what calories or how many calories. So again, let's reiterate that. Intermittent fasting is about when you eat your calories, not about how many or how few calories you eat. And I'm gonna give you an example in a second. But again, take a moment to think about that. And for those of you that already understand this, I know I'm coming off as a little sarcastic, so don't take it personally. This is really to all those people that have that urge to become a keyboard warrior on the fasting videos and say, you shouldn't reduce calories, and young people can't fast, pregnant people can't fast, whatever. And there are exceptions when some people shouldn't be really reducing calorie intake. And there are some examples of when people should maybe be eating a little bit more frequently. I actually follow 16-8. And so I think that's a little bit closer to what most people can do. But in some examples, kids, pregnant, nursing, mothers, people with certain specific medical conditions, there might be variables that you have to tweak for. That said, a lot of these people can also fast sometimes, maybe not as frequently or maybe for not as long, but it is still some form of fasting that most people can do. And so again, not going off on a tangent, but it is about calorie timing. And now to an example. So my typical day, let's just say for round number, I eat 2,000 calories a day. I don't eat breakfast, and either I'll do a drink your fat in the morning, which is a few hundred calories of mostly fat, which is very hormonally neutral, or I'll just do cold brew like I did today and have no calories. And then I'll eat my first meal in about 4 to 6 hours. And from the day before, the last meal I ate, which I think was like 9 p.m. or something, or maybe 10 p.m., to my first meal today, I will have gotten a 16-hour or maybe like an 18-hour fast, which means for that period of time, I didn't eat any calories. Now, when I break my fast today, which I probably will about 5 or 6 p.m., I will eat my first meal. Then the timer starts for 8 hours. That's when I'm going to eat all my calories for the day. And again, like I said, if we're going to go around number, let's assume 2,000 calories a day. I probably eat somewhere between like 2,000 to 2,500, just it fluctuates. I'm going to eat all those calories during that 8-hour feeding window. And it's still during the day. It's when I'm awake. And all I did was not eat food in the morning and early afternoon, and then at night, and then while I was sleeping. And so that gives me a 16-hour window to go without food. And the longer you go without food, and a lot of the research suggests that it's around the 16-hour mark, that you get a lot of those autophagy benefits, a lot of the insulin sensitivity benefits, and just generally the longer you can go, the better. And 16 hours is also the place you can go to where you don't really have to worry about any protein degradation or anything like that. So like if you're trying to gain muscle mass, you kind of aim for a 16-hour window and you're going to be good. There's actually a lot of benefits if you're trying to build muscle with insulin sensitivity, protein sparing, GH production, all the growth hormones, things like that. But if you go beyond that, like 24 hours at times, or if you do it too often, you can run into problems maybe. There's a lot of research that we still have to do with that because that might not be the case at all. And if you look back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they were strong, fit, agile hunters that moved all the time. They may have gone long periods of time without food. In fact, they did go long periods of time without food on a regular basis. So to think their muscles are just going to waste away, even though muscles are necessary for survival and for hunting and for running and for doing all these things, I don't buy it. Like I just don't buy it. So they had different access to foods, they had different environment, they had different levels of activity. You know, some people lift weights, so it's a little bit different. So there are a lot of variables to take into account here, okay? But again, today's video is about, it's not about calories, it's about timing. Intermittent fasting is about timing. Intermittent, so time-based fasting, that's what it is. If someone comes to you with how you shouldn't fast or do this or whatever, it's complete and utter nonsense. Everybody should fast. It's part of human biology. It's natural to our species because our ancestors did it for hundreds of thousands of generations in the wild before we started farming and before we had grocery stores and before we had fridges and modern food preservation and all this nonsense that we have today that is basically ruining our biology because we're told we're supposed to eat all the time, right? What better marketing tactic than to convince the public that you're supposed to eat on a regular basis all the time? How antithetical to your food company or even supplement company or whatever if you tell people that they should go without anything for periods of time, right? You can see how those aren't congruent, and you can see how one might have become more popular since the invention of internet, actually TV. It started with TV, and then the cereal commercials that were targeted to kids became a big thing, and that's also why we have breakfast, and there's a whole conspiracy around breakfast and why breakfast was created. Breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day, especially not in the mornings. I know, tangent alert, tangent alert, tangent alert. Let's review today's video and keep it short. Intermittent fasting is about timing of calories. If you eat 3,000 calories a day because you're trying to bulk, you'll eat 3,000 calories a day within an 8-hour window or a 4-hour window or a 10-hour window or whatever you do for your own personal goals and lifestyle. I do 16-8 typically. Sometimes I'll push my fast even longer to go 20 hours and then eat my first meal, and then maybe eat a smaller meal later on. But generally I do like my first meal is kind of like the largest meal. It's like my dinner/breakfast. And then I have a smaller meal, within 4 to 6 hours of that. And that's kind of how I wrap up my eating for the day. And it makes life simple. It gives me all the benefits of that intermittent fasting gives you, like insulin sensitivity and all the things. Like just Google it, you can find all the benefits, and you can find all the people that are losing weight with it and controlling their hormones. And again, not just about losing weight, it's about maintaining healthy metabolism, right? And fasting and feeding, balancing those two is a part of natural human life and natural human biology and natural human metabolism. So don't let people convince you it's about calorie restriction or fasting is about weight loss. It's not. It's about maintaining healthy human metabolism through the natural ebbs and flows of fasting and feeding. That's what intermittent fasting is about. It's not about calories. You could eat 500 calories in a day within your feeding window, or you could eat 10,000 calories a day within your feeding window, and you would still be intermittent fasting. So make sure you like and subscribe below. Leave a comment if you have any questions or comments, or if you want me to help you clarify your misconception of fasting for all you trolls and keyboard warriors out there. I'm happy to comment and or delete or block your comments if necessary. So keep it positive and useful. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome, fast, intermittent fast, and live better.